Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to our Please Ask campaign. We have reached the halfway mark already, and we are so proud to bring you all day 3 of our Please Ask campaign. As a reminder, I am Aniqua Acree, the founder and executive director of a Georgia-based nonprofit called Journey to Self Inc. that was created to promote healing and self-discovery for communities of color. We definitely emphasize the healing of Black women and Black girls. Our Please Ask campaign is a community engagement campaign focused on bringing awareness to childhood sexual abuse, while also aiding in the healing of survivors and providing training to people in children's lives so that we all are empowered to please ask kids about sexual abuse. In a few minutes, I will be introducing our guest speaker, Miss Nikki, who will be talking with me about offenders of sexual abuse. But before we will begin, please note that the information you hear today may be triggering. So if you and or someone that you know has experienced sexual abuse, please do not hesitate to call the National Sexual Abuse Hotline. Their phone number is 1-800-656-4673. Nikki, look,
Hey.
it wouldn't be me, right, if I did not start by expressing my gratitude.
Yeah.
You are speaking on multiple days. I am just so honored, to have your insight and to have you share your story with us. Can you remind everyone who you are by sharing a little about yourself?
Yes. Thank you again for having me on. The last few days have been amazing. My name is Nikki Adams. I am a trauma-informed yoga teacher. I own a business called Beauty for Ashes Wellness Cultivation, and I help survivors trust, love, and heal their bodies through the practice of yoga.
Oh,
And I'm
yes.
also a childhood sexual abuse survivor.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And so, our goal for the Please Ask campaign is to truly see childhood sexual abuse come to an end. And in order to achieve this, we have to share insight not only into the life of the survivor, but also the life of an offender. So, when you are thinking of someone who has or even could sexually abuse a child, what characteristics come to mind?
Um, Society likes to paint the
Right.
offender as like a old perv in a white van.
Right.
And that's is totally the opposite. You know,
Yes.
is usually presented, as a man. Women can also be offenders and are
Exactly. Yeah.
other children can be offenders with younger children.
Yeah.
And like the characteristics are usually cunning, really manipulative.
Right.
They're just, they seem like a regular person. You don't even know it's, manipulation is,
Yeah.
it does its job. And before you know it, you don't even realize that you're in a situation with a type of person like that. Um,
Right. They're
yeah.
usually so good at painting this image, right?
Hmm.
Of fun and loving. And it's like you see kids with them, but you never like really think that that person is capable of just projecting the type of harm they do because they're narcissistic in a
Yeah.
way, and they
Hmm.
have just this vibe and this aura about them that
Hmm.
builds that trust,
Yeah.
that that kid end up having, or at least that's how it was for me
Yes.
when I reflect, yeah, back on
Hmm.
mine. And I feel like oftentimes hurt people, if that makes sense. And so, do
Yeah.
you believe that there is a correlation between a victim becoming an abuser?
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Especially starting off at child, if you were a
Right.
childhood sexual abuse survivor, a lot of times, you do end up offending, you know, other children, not knowing any better because you have, that's what you were taught, and that's what,
Right.
you know, kids do what adults do.
Yeah.
So,
So true.
yes, I believe that it might be a little bit hard for me to say this, or a little bit hard for, you know, the audience to understand that there has to be a sense of compassion for the offender too. But that takes
Mm-hmm.
a long time, you know, trust me, it takes a lot of
Right.
healing. But if you understand, a lot of these offenders, they were either sexually abused themselves, physically abused, had trauma, and
Right.
this is how there was no healing, none of that. Is a vicious cycle. That's really what it
Yeah.
is, a vicious cycle. And it
Very
goes
true.
from adult offender to child, then child offender, and it just keeps going in a cycle. So yes, I believe
Right. I'm
offenders, the
I'm
correlation.
actually right. I'm happy you brought up the fact that, there is that correlation between a victim becoming an abuser, if you will, because, and I
Mhm.
think I shared this with you offline, but there were even times after I experienced my sexual abuse, um, and the way that I played with my friends, or the way that I played with my cousins was
Mhm.
inappropriate.
Yeah.
And there were no, adults around or anybody to monitor,
Mhm.
that type of behavior. And so as an adult now, and reflecting back on just those actions, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's
Yeah.
so easy, especially as a child, to project that same abuse or energy and experience onto someone else. So yeah, that definitely, and that's also why it was important for me to highlight the Offenders Day during this campaign,
Mhm.
because how can we truly heal, if all parties are not involved?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
Everyone needs healing. Everyone deserves healing. Everyone is worthy of healing. We're human beings, hurt, you know, and
yeah,
some people hurt more or show their hurt and hurt other people. That's
right,
how they
right,
they get through their, it's just hard because it's a traumatic experience. And I believe that unless you're just a pure evil person,
mm-hmm,
people, everyone has been through something,
mm-hmm,
and we just express it and deal with it in different ways. And our
yeah,
minds and our bodies, they get rewired and all that type of stuff. So it's really
right.
hard, you know, is I understand, like, I have compassion for the offenders. So
Right, definitely. And then, as I stated earlier, Journey to Self truly wants to see childhood sexual abuse end, which means we have to be bold enough, to have the type of conversations that you and I are having right now, such as the fact that offenders are oftentimes relatives, and people that we know and we trust. And so there's this sense of wanting to like protect them and wanting to, just also aid in their healing in a sense. So, in your opinion, Nikki, how can we begin to break free from like family secrets and protecting family members who we know are also offenders?
we have to not be so content
Mm,
in the fact that a relative in this
right,
family
right,
um, is continuing to abuse children generation after generation. Like,
right,
at some point, it's not okay to just not to just be content with the fact that, everybody knows, um, knows that don't go to Uncle whatever room because
right.
that you don't kids, like it's a joke.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just, you know, you have to understand the long lasting effects, not only emotionally, mentally, spiritually, but physically. You know,
exactly.
hearing, different sicknesses for women. I know, like, I have endometriosis, and it's directly
Right.
tied to my abuse.
Right.
So we got to start to understand the effects of what is happening to these children, and not just sit around and make jokes about the family offender. It's not
So
okay.
true.
I personally had
Mhm.
to make a big step that, I never thought I would be in the seat of being a mom of the survivor.
Yeah.
And then also realizing that I'm not only the mom of the survivor, but I'm the mom of the offender.
Mm.
And
Wow.
when I found out that my son was sexually abusing my daughter, my immediate reaction was, this is not true. Get out. Like,
Mm.
my immediate internal reaction. I didn't
Right.
say it to her because I done a lot of work and I was already,
Right.
but in my immediate internal reaction was, this is not true. Like, get out my face with this. I don't want to hear it. No, whatever. Like, you don't
Right.
know who
Right.
wants their family member. It's bad enough that we have to protect our kids from people out here in this world, but who
Right.
wants their family member? Who wants to hear that your son was abusing your daughter?
Yeah.
And how do you deal with that? And I had to make the decision that I had to give up my rights as a mom and try to protect both of my children.
Right. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got to do what you got to do. I mean, I feel like there's no easy way to say it. and
Right.
things, there's no beating around the bush when it comes to protecting children.
Exactly. Exactly. Wow, Nikki. Thank you so much for opening up and sharing that. You bring such a interesting just perspective and dynamic,
Mhm.
especially to this day, to all of our days,
Yeah.
but to this day, especially with me wanting to highlight the fact that offenders also need love, and they also need support and they also need healing in
Mhm.
order to not continuously, repeat that cycle and continuously have us here, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So thank you again for sharing that. And
Yeah. I was just gonna say, like,
yeah,
you know, going back to, I think, the previous question, if offenders can be,
if
do
victims can
victims,
be abusers, yeah,
yeah. When I started to hear the details of the story about my son and my daughter,
yeah,
I started to think to myself, like, where the hell, did my
right,
son get this stuff from? And
right,
as we dug deeper and, things started to come out, he was a victim
mm,
of being exposed and,
right,
manipulated and sexually abused over the internet.
wow.
So,
And see, and that just provides another dynamic, which we
mhm,
somewhat talked about on day one of the campaign. But when we are protecting our kids from sexual abuse, we have to also incorporate just the conversation around internet usage,
yeah.
and a lot of times that part is skipped. I know when I spoke to my child for the very
Mhm,
first time about sexual abuse, it was all, as if a physical
yeah.
in-person
Mhm,
connection was, taking place. But nowadays, there's all of these different algorithms and all of these
mhm,
different online predators too, to where sex and different explicit content can
mhm.
just come up. Your
Yeah.
baby can be watching YouTube one day, a
Yeah.
kid friendly, but then here's an ad, or
Mhm.
here is something that, so
No, yeah, I definitely get that. That's one thing that I'm really digging deeper into, as far
yeah,
as, like, because our kids don't go outside no more. It used to be,
right.
be careful with the people outside. So who are they dealing with? They have straight, direct access to the world
So true. In the palm of their hands.
in the palm of their hands. And and I'm an adult, and just being
Right.
vulnerable and honest. Sometimes if I get a little text message or a DM like, "Oh, hey, cutie," I get a little,
Right.
hey,
Right.
I'm in a whole relationship that just human nature
Right.
kind of, then I can be like, I'm not, what am I doing? You know what I'm saying? I'm an
Right.
adult. I have those reasoning skills. Children don't.
Exactly. Exactly.
They're in a conversation and being sexually abused within minutes on these phones.
Yeah. Very
So,
true.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. And then, as parents, we oftentimes get these gut feelings, or just this intuition that someone or something may not be safe for our child. So when we're getting those feelings, how can we go about, protecting our babies? Do you think it's imperative that we tune in to those types of vibes, using air quotes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think I said it in the last time that I didn't have a feeling. I just got nudges that said, go check on the kids.
Yeah.
But because I wasn't where I am now, fear came up because it was almost like, but what if I see something?
Right.
What if I catch something? So I'm
Yeah.
saying that I'm gonna just freeze. Like my PTSD, fight, flight, or freeze. I froze in a lot of,
Right.
and I just, you gotta heal yourself first. You gotta understand and know. I mean, like I said, the abuse rates, childhood sexual abuse rates are astronomical.
Right.
What one of our parents or grandparents or sisters or brothers or somebody in your family, multiple people have
Right.
been abused, sexually abused. So we're aware of it. And we all live through that vicarious trauma too, if it's out there.
Right. Very
So
true.
that's a traumatic situation. So you got to really like work on that stuff, work on those generational patterns and things, because that fear, that those PTSD moments will get in the way. But
Yeah.
what I'm telling you is that, I don't know, would you rather not say anything and have to live with a guilt that is
Right. Right.
so if you have a gut intuition, I don't care
Yeah.
how many times you ask questions, you do the best that you can. Unfortunately, some kids are so traumatized and it's so complex that they still may not tell you. But at least
Right.
you said something. At least you.
Right. Right. You're setting that foundation. So
Mhm,
eventually,
mhm,
when they're ready, they'll be able to disclose that. And it's so interesting because I feel, especially when I look at my personal story and just my
mhm.
upbringing, while my mom never asked, she tried to control my life in such a way to protect me,
Yeah.
or to keep like something from happening
Mhm,
because of the fact that she experienced sexual trauma. So she's like, my baby isn't going outside.
mhm.
No, you can't spend the night at this house and that house. And I'm thinking, you put all of these methods into place, but you miss the most important, the conversation, the
Yeah.
dialogue. So therefore, I had been abused, way before you even started to alter and
Yeah.
control certain aspects of my life.
Mhm.
And you basically didn't prevent, the
Yeah.
trauma. And you
Mhm,
also did not aid in the healing because
mhm.
we did not have the conversation.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's important to listen to those gut feelings and act on them,
Act on them.
and act
Definitely
on
act on them.
them. Even now, when I talk to my kids about sexual trauma, I'm a little like shaky. My lip
Yeah.
is like trembling a little bit, but it's a conversation that has to be had.
Mhm.
So just taking those deep breaths and trying to stay grounded and
Yes.
remembering my why.
And
Usually.
and um just offering, learning to discern what's your gut feeling rather
Mm,
than your intrusive thoughts.
Yes.
Because your gut feeling is a gentle guidance. It's
Yeah.
like, it's real gentle. All of the stuff surrounded by childhood sexual abuse is real subtle. It's you don't
Right.
like, you can feel something is going on, or this is wrong, or in all the aspects, the offender,
Right.
everything.
Mm.
But when you listen to your gut and not like, your mind, like,
Right.
your gut is usually the truth. Your body holds an intelligence, that helps the mind, but your body
Yeah.
also gives you those feelings, those reminders. And I got
Exactly.
those reminders constantly, especially when my son started getting older.
Mm.
But I'm like, no, like, I don't, it's my son. You see how
Right. It's
close
your
that is?
baby.
You want to
Right.
push that away. You do not want to believe that.
Yeah.
So, like, every time I would have those feelings, I would push them away. I didn't want to believe it. And I should have, and it wasn't like something in my head. I could go to sleep at night or whatever. It was
Right.
that feeling when he came around me. It was
Yeah.
that feeling when he was around my daughter. So
Right.
listen to those feelings. Listen to your body. Listen to your body.
Yes, definitely.
Mhm.
And I know I keep repeating this, but truly, it's just so important that I highlight it. In order for us to really, really see a world without childhood sexual abuse, we must provide healing
Mhm.
and just supportive services to survivors and offenders. And
Yeah.
so, Nikki, if we were living in your ideal world, you were calling the shots. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
What type of action would you take against a person who has sexually abused a child?
This is hard.
Right.
I thought about
And
I
see,
thought
so for me, it's tough for me because I feel that healing does not take place in prison or
yeah.
in jail, you know? And should they be confined and yes, but can we offer mental health services as well? Like, can we have like some type of deep emotional healing in a sense? Because I feel like until we get to the core of the abuse, the court system focuses on the actions,
Yeah.
but it's like so much deeper than that. And we've highlighted a lot of this, you know, in our conversation today. And so I feel that it has to have some type of just counseling or
So again, like, I like, I just feel so closely with this topic. I'm going through it right now.
right. Yeah.
Um, so you're right. Like, that's, it's hard to say because I know that a lot of people have anger, and it's okay to
Yeah.
be, but you'll come to a point where you will no longer be angry and you'll be able to have compassion. I believe the same thing you do. Help, mental health
Yeah.
service. I my son was facing 2 years in adult prison for this.
Wow.
And I fought like, no, yeah, you don't even punish adults stuff
Right.
like this. Like, there
Yeah.
needs to be some type of help. Is more than that. Like, you don't understand the full story. Like, it's more
Yeah.
just he's this evil. Like, kids are not, they don't mean to do anything. They don't know no better. They're learning still.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so I finally, I I just found out that he'll be getting 9 to 12 months of treatment for this specific
Okay.
thing. So,
Yeah.
like, that's what I would do. I would have like services for,
Right.
because you got to deal with your own, the offenders have to deal with their own trauma too.
Right. Right.
So same thing, like definitely help, definitely mental health services, different types of things, yoga, just the same stuff we get.
Right. Right.
So,
Exactly.
the same, like,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, in the ideal world, yeah, I would not want to see, it depends on the nature of the thing too,
Right. Right.
when I
And
think yeah, it depends on the
yeah.
nature.
Right, definitely. And I was just going to add that piece too, because the
Mhm.
last thing I want is for viewers to feel that we're making excuses,
Yeah.
or making light of a very traumatic
Mhm.
situation. And with both of us being survivors of childhood sexual abuse, and then with the goal of the campaign being to actually start the healing process so that we can no longer see this.
Yeah.
I think it's only fair, that we highlight offenders,
Yeah.
at some point throughout this
Mhm.
campaign. And we do it in a humanizing way, and show the similarities
Yeah.
between a survivor and an
Mhm.
offender. But in
Yeah.
no way, I repeat again, in no way are
No.
we, condoning
Mhm.
the behavior. So,
Not,
Nikki,
yeah.
oh, yeah, were
And
you about to say?
sorry. I was just gonna say my personal story as far as the offender of my abuse did serve time in prison,
Right.
15 years. And I don't like I
Right.
but I I have compassion or whatever, but I think
Yeah,
like, there's
exactly.
there's a nature, there's the type of person really, I'm so yes,
Yeah.
prison is an option.
Right,
Too.
right. And that's actually really big because I know my offender never, and again, it took me quite some time to speak up about it.
Yeah,
But even other stories that I've heard, a lot of their offenders are still walking around to
yeah,
today.
yeah, yeah.
Usually it's very tough to
Mhm.
actually see prison time,
Yeah.
or jail time or punishment, being given to an offender. And we're going to touch on that on day 5 on our call to action, because there needs to be some changes. Yes, we want to see emotional support and counseling, but there also needs to be changes in just the law and the
Mhm.
criminal justice system so that these offenders do get jail time.
Yeah.
They do face, punishment for their crimes, depending on the circumstances.
But while in prison, I do believe they still should be getting help around this specific thing. Like I
Right,
think they're digging into the root.
right.
Like it should be a mesh of, you know, a combination of like a certain therapy that focuses on their problem sexual behavior
Yes.
and, you know,
Yeah.
being included.
And
Because,
not to even go all off topic here, but we know that sexual abuse happens in the jails too. So it's like they're being
exactly.
put
Yeah,
back in this continuous
that's
cycle.
true.
So it's just,
That's
you
really,
know,
really true. Yeah.
it's just,
Hmm.
it's
Yep.
an interesting conversation for sure. So I'm excited to just see the Please Ask campaign grow, and just how many different entities we're able to take this conversation into.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
And that's
And
exactly why, oh, sorry.
nope, go
One
ahead.
more thing I was just gonna say, that's exactly why I say this problem, childhood sexual abuse, is a systemic issue.
Right.
Because
Hmm.
all right, we're done.
Yeah. I agree. We could talk, especially on this topic,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
all day, all
Hmm.
day. But I
Yeah.
definitely want to thank you so much, Nikki, for just going on this journey with me,
Yeah.
offering a different perspective to
Mhm.
our Offenders Day. I think many of our viewers are starting to piece together how truly unique this campaign is.
Yeah.
And yeah, for everyone who is viewing right now, we know some of these topics may be hard for you to hear. hard for you to accept, especially today in the right now. But I encourage you to remember the bigger impact that childhood sexual abuse has on all of us. We simply can just no longer continue to suffer in silence. I appreciate y'all for hanging in there with us. Be sure to comment, like, repost, share your thoughts and concerns with us. And Nikki, before you go, how can our viewers keep in contact with you?
On Instagram at Nikki_Adams, ATOMS. And then if you want to like check out my website at NikkiAdamsYoga.com.
Awesome. And Nikki, if you guys go to our journeytoself.net website, she's also listed on our resources page. I don't even know if I told you that, but you're on there. So after y'all follow Nikki, be sure to also follow Journey to Self on Facebook, Instagram, and also subscribe to our YouTube page so that you can continue to engage with our Please Ask campaign. The campaign started on April 4th and it ends on April 8th. So if you've missed day 1 and day 2's content, be sure to check out those social media platforms to get caught up. And thank you again, Nikki.
Thank you.
Yes, sending peace and healing to everyone.
Yeah, everyone to take a deep breath.
Right.
Take a deep breath.
All righty.
All right.